Here goes. Welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Here we are, episode 178. Sitting out in the world today, coming from the back of you, coming from the back of you? Coming from the back of the Kia. Hold on, I'm typing down the title. Is that the fastest title that I've ever had in this stupid show? Anyway, coming from the back of the Kia, enjoying the great outdoors. A nice balmy 63 degrees is what Garmin is saying. I'm looking around because I am technically at work. I knew I was going to do this today. I knew I was going to record outside of the home, mostly. And if you are hearing me coming from both your left and right ear or speaker, people listen to podcasts in the car. If you're hearing me switch sides, it's because since I am recording outside the home, I'm just recording straight to the Zoom microphone, not the video, not the subpar video conferencing app. And I am using the stereoscopic mics, I guess. Right before I started up this show, I was going to do the binaural mic, whatever it is called, the other mic that comes with the Zoom, and it is being used as a counterbalance. I wish you could see the system I have set up here. I've got a scissor jack, and I left my stand inside that holds the phone usually. And I knew I was going to do it outside, but I forgot the stand. I have the scissor jack propping up the case for the Pelican case for the Zoom. Excuse me, the hard shell case. And then my Pixel 2 XL, that is my on-the-go camera, is being used as the front cam. And so this is truly, if I move, everything will fall. I think I've seen the case shift at least once. I can't laugh too hard, which is fine because this comedy show is not very funny at all. I am in a shaded area. I can see the sun, even though it is cloudy outside, the sun is shining on one side of the parking lot, and I'm on the shady side. This is also a side where people, for some reason, cross through. There's a patch, not even a patch. There's a hill over there that I think there's an apartment complex or an office building of some sort where people I see all the time, walk through. So if you see somebody behind me, truly, if I was going to get murdered, this would be a perfect time to murder me because I'm not watching that backside of me. So let's get moving. We got some stuff. I'm still using Notion for some ungodly reason to bring up the notes. This comes from Variety, written by Shirley Zhu. J. Cole's Dreamville expands, launches content studio with key hires. So you see, Dreamville Records is J. Cole's record label. And they do some good work. A lot of it is they shoot some, and you know most studios, most record companies do this, but most modern ones do this. They shoot behind the scenes video of their artists, and so the Dreamville artists, who I refuse to name, Boz, Khaled, I don't know, Khalid, and the others, the rest. They and there's a lot of good behind the scenes video, particularly from Dreamville, where I have a package out for delivery. Mm-hmm. Yes, I participated in Amazon Prime Day. Yes, I finally bought a water pick. Yes, I'm excited to use it tonight. That's all I got. I didn't get anything else. I wanted to, but I didn't. I didn't have any money. But now, these record companies, because they have such good videography, they often expand into different avenues of money making. So with these two new hires, which includes Damian Scott and Candice Rodney, this is going to create a lot of stuff for the social. It's going to be music, obviously, television, film, publishing, apparel, live events. There's a Dreamville Festival. Didn't know that existed. So we'll see what happens with this in the coming year or so. Usually when you see new hires like this, I tend to think that it's just going to be involving video. But it's more than video. Because they're a music company. It's more than video. They got stuff to do. Now, speaking of music, this comes from Chris Eggerston over at Billboard. Spotify now allowing creators to package podcasts with music, further licensing not required. So this is huge. So usually if you have a big podcast, if you make money off your podcast and you want to use some type of music, you have to pay license fees. Same thing for TV shows, for movies, for YouTube videos, you have to pay license fees. If you're making money off of something, you got to you have to pay license fees. And these, depending on the size of the company and depending on the size of the project and depending on the person, these can be, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, what have you, for one song. Like if you think about even for parodies, if the parody closely resembles the song. There is an episode of 30 Rock where one. I mean, that show is so gag heavy, but there's one scene right before Alec Baldwin's Jack Donaghy shows up at Liz Lemon's apartment. She sings a parody of is it Night Shift? Anyway, she calls it Night Cheese. And her version was apparently so close to the original song that 30 Rock had to pay thousands. Well, NBC Universal had to pay thousands of dollars to the God. And I'm blanking. I was literally thinking about this yesterday, apropos of nothing. So I don't know why I can't remember the singer and I was quoting it yesterday. That's why I was thinking about it. Anyway, to get to this story, Spotify is now allowing those who use Anchor, for instance, the podcast creation platform, to play music. And so, I'm assuming that they're going to pay the fees themselves, license fees themselves. However, they already don't pay artists, so we'll see what happens with that. It's being what's billed as a new type of audio experience. Oh, so it already started. So you can merge talk segments with complete unedited music tracks in, quote, one harmonious listening experience. Listeners can interact with the featured music as they normally would by liking, saving, and getting more information about a track without leaving the show page or searching the song manually. So just imagine if you use Spotify as your means of podcasting, which I don't know why you would, but it's probably the easiest thing for you. Then this means that you're listening to an episode of Song Exploder, which is a podcast I didn't know existed until this week. You're listening to Song Exploder. I'm not subscribed. I'm done subscribing to podcasts. If you hear there's a helicopter going over. But if you hear, is that a spider? Oh my God. Okay, well, get out of here. Its web was caught on top of the door, and it was blowing in the wind, and it was trying to climb up it as if it was going to come inside. And I think I knocked it to the ground. We'll see what happens when Future Chad is driving this car in a couple of days, and he forgot that he did this episode from the back, and there's a spider back here anyway. But if you listen to Song Exploder, and they're talking about a song, Don't Stop Now by Dua Lipa, and they play that song in Spotify, like you listen to it in the Spotify app, then they're talking about a song and they're playing the song, boom, song's right there. Or actually, I'm sorry, I'm mucking this up. It's if someone uses it as an interlude, or if they play parts of the song, like on Never Not Funny, for instance, sometimes they play songs. And not as like transitions or anything, but like they'll say, what was the name of that song? And they'll play the song, and then they'll listen to it for like a couple of seconds. But now, they could integrate that into the Spotify RSS feed and allow for people to, click on the song and stuff. And I think it's a genius move. That's not, I won't say genius, but it's a genius move on their part, because Spotify wants to be that all-in-one place where you get your audio. And while a lot of people, including especially myself, think it's a muddied experience, it's so much going on in that app. And they tried to break off Spotify before and they still have it. They have a separate app called Stations, where it's just the Spotify radio stations. And my thought is, who would use that? What person goes, I like Spotify so much, but just using the app, because even the app, when you connect it to a Bluetooth car module, it turns into a car app, and you can still use it. But who's thinking, like, who says, like, the app is just so convoluted that I need just the radio stations when I'm driving? Like, who has a separate? I can't understand why somebody would have that. But to each their own. So this is a smart move on their part, just to have that. That's vertical integration right there. Get out of here, Jesus! These bugs. Vertical integration. I put in an application for a cat adoption, and I was told that the cat has a lot of adoptions on it. It's a fairly popular cat. So I put in another application for another cat. So I'm waiting. I'm supposed to be interviewed for the first cat. So hopefully I get that one, because that one's $25. But hopefully I get that one. And and that'd be great. I wonder, and it makes me think, in regards to the Spotify thing, if, Apple, they broke off podcasts into its own app years ago. I don't even know if it was I think it was in the music app, but they broke it off. So now it's just Apple Podcasts and Apple Music. I wonder if this is catching their attention and they're being able to go. I wonder if we should put in apps back into Apple or podcasts back into Apple Music. I mean, and Google broke off Google Podcasts from Play Music, which is now YouTube Music. So yeah. I mean, this is a special thing for Spotify for sure. I mean, and then also Spotify has, they have new shows coming out, which I could, and for fully licensed talk shows. They have more talk shows coming. I mean, I truly don't care about subscribing to more podcasts, but if you, a lot of these podcasts are only on Spotify. Like Joe Rogan's podcast is only going to be on Spotify. And again, I think that's a bad thing for podcasts in general, is to have you can only get podcasts on one platform, but whatever. I do like that feature. Like, if there is a show outside of Spotify that can upload their RSS feed to the thing, and like if I play a song on here, I would not do that because I don't make money from this podcast. Let's move along. And we're back. Okay. If I'm a smart man, what I did was I cut out the last 3 minutes of this show. But I doubt I'm a smart man. If I'm not a lazy man. What I cut out is just 3 minutes of unprofessionalness. The camera fell. It's because I'm out here in the car recording the show. I want to, I thought, because I couldn't record the show last night. The day this comes out is a Friday, October 16th, 2020. Normally I do my best to record in my apartment. But the night, usually record on Thursday nights. Thursday happened to be a very busy day, and I just couldn't do it. I had 2 video chats, and I just couldn't record a show. So I thought, you know what? Record in the car? That's my backup. And then I'm at work, and I'm going, all right, time to record a podcast. And I come downstairs, and about and this is, I work in a building where I can't use the stairs to go up. I have to use elevators to go up. So I hit the stairwell, and then I go out the front door, or I go out the side door of the building, and I'm feeling in my hands. I have the iPad, I have the Pelican case for the hard case for the Zoom, and I go, crap, I left the phone stand. And I just didn't want to go back upstairs. So that'd be 5 whole minutes out of this show that I couldn't provide. And instead, I gave you a 2-minute story. So there you have it. Now I got to deal with propping this thing up, having a horrible angle. It's fine. Let's keep going. The story I started to read when this fell over. This comes from Ars Technica, written by Kyle Orland. Microsoft will give GameStop a share of Xbox's digital revenues. Now, this is something I just grabbed this morning right before the gym, so I didn't even, I wasn't even paying attention. I was just like, all right, got to do this. GameStop was now going to share in the lifetime digital sales revenue, including for full game downloads, DLC, and subscription plans for any Xbox console sold through its stores. The first sign of the new revenue sharing arrangement actually came somewhat hidden in a press release GameStop issued last week, trumpeting a, quote, multi-year strategic partnership with Microsoft. That announcement focused heavily on GameStop agreeing to use Microsoft's cloud-based infrastructure for its back-end sales systems, and a deal for store associates to start using Microsoft Surface tablets going forward. And then buried at the bottom of that release, this is the quote: GameStop and Microsoft will both benefit from the customer acquisition and lifetime revenue value of each gamer brought into the Xbox ecosystem. That's great. We don't know exactly how much this is going to help out GameStop. Now, obviously, it's going to help out GameStop, and GameStop's been struggling, but this is going to be a big deal for them. It could be there's an estimated 10% of all digital revenues for those consoles. A share that this analyst says, quote, materially could be quite large, especially as time goes on. There's some other stuff, but GameStop has, not been doing too hot in terms of retail. They do have some decent sales every now and then, but it's, just looking at the details now, we knew that that GameStop is using Microsoft's xCloud stuff. It's xCloud. That GameStop's using their cloud stuff for Microsoft, and I don't know quite what to think of this deal. I think it's a good move for both of them. It ensures GameStop's a somewhat stable future. They're still going to close down a bunch of stores, but they also plan on opening up new ones. And then they're in the middle of a remodel, turning it into a gaming lounge / retail center, in lieu of just a retail place. And, what was it? A couple of years ago, they started traditionally offering more vintage hardware and software for the same prices as when they came out, which baffles me. But GameStop is, because I don't know much about GameStop as a company, and there's a News Time episode that I have had planned for about a year now, or a year or so, in regards to GameStop. Maybe I'll do it for E3 next year. Yeah, maybe 2021 will be the last year of news time. Neither Microsoft nor GameStop are talking about the deal much. And of course, they're not going to give away how much money is going anywhere. But maybe this is going to help out, bring out further promotions. Sometimes, when GameStop has like trade-in deals for new consoles. So if you want to trade in your PS4 to get a PS3 to get a PS4, that was a deal for a long time. And same thing for 360, the Xbox One, and they would give you like $200 up to like $200 or $300 depending on the size of your PS3 or your Xbox 360, or the version rather. And so yeah, I mean, a $500 console, you're getting $200-$300 off already. That immediately takes, that's a great deal. So maybe in the future we'll have. Maybe it'll be easier to buy games. Maybe the back end of Microsoft's technology is going to make it easier for people when they go on the website to see what games are in stock. Maybe it's going to make it easier for digital sales to be a little bit cheaper, as opposed to because on the Microsoft store and PlayStation store you get, and Nintendo store, there's deals all the time. There's deals every single week. But what if this opens up for those deals to not only be purchased on the Xbox store, but also to be purchased on the GameStop store? What if you get your discount? What if you subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and there's a woman taking a walk. She's stopping, and she's going to continue walking. You better keep walking, lady. The building I work at, we're in Buckhead, Atlanta, and it is very urban, suburban, meaning that there are apartments around, but it's still largely a city vibe. And it's the rich part of Buckhead. However, we do have a lot of land here at the office. We have 2 buildings there, and people like to take walks, which is nice. Walks around the property. But you're still in the parking lot. Just want to let you know. So we'll see what happens there. The company stock price jumped up 92% in the last 30 days and a whopping 379% from its 2020 low point early April. So, good for them. Oh, this is something. This is a very short thing I want to talk about. This is from Todd Spangler over at Variety. Bon Appetit rebuilds video slate with 8 new chefs following wave of protest resignation. Now, I don't want to get too into it, but Bon Appetit, the magazine and YouTube channel owned by Condé Nast, the magazine turned YouTube channel, but still magazine owned by Condé Nast, is earlier this summer there were some the editor got in trouble because he had brown face on, but not like brown face from 20, 30 years ago. It was brown face from less than 10. Bad. Which brown face is bad in the first place, but doing it within the aughts, come on. So he had brown face on, and then one of the I think she's Indian chefs / editors at the periodical, she denounced him, and then everybody at the periodical denounced him, and then he resigned, and then there was some other race stuff that was brought up. Basically, brown people and women. Now let's just say brown people. Brown people, because I don't know if white women were mistreated there, but brown people were paid less, significantly less than their white cohorts, especially for appearing on the video side, which is immensely popular. Well, which was immensely popular. So, and Condé Nast did nothing about it. They just offered the, one or two of the brown people more money, and then, basically trying to pay them off to be quiet. half of the famous video faces quit, and so now they're bringing in new video faces, and guess what? They're all brown. I can't tell you, and this is one of the biggest issues I have with. I'm so glad and grateful that something. Sorry, I had to check the time on the microphone. I did it in the middle of a thought. I don't know why. I'm glad and grateful that some things were brought to light when it came to protesting of police killing black people and all this what I've been calling civil upheaval of the past couple of months. So glad all this stuff is happening. However, there's an overreaction on the part of the white people and the quote unquote white people in charge. Where they think that, in response, they hear like black women are the most mistreated and underrepresented ever of all, like in the world, people in the world, and then everything. Then they have all these open spots. All these companies have these open spots, and they only hire black women. Just because black women are misrepresented, that doesn't mean Asian women and Asian men and Latino men and trans people. Like it's one category or it's no category, and it stinks. So when it came to the people that they hired, which I have nothing against these people, but they only hired they hired like a bunch of black people, but that's not they have like what, one Indian person. Looks like, and one maybe Latino person, but I don't know. I think they're missing the point. Is what's the problem? One queer person, like it just come on, or person who identifies as queer. I don't know these rules. So it's basically a reboot, and they have and they 3 of the original hosts are still there, but I think 5 left, 5 or 6. They had a lot. They had a lot of hosts there, and a lot of editors there. They're editors first. They're chefs and editors first. The blow up happened in June. So yeah. Anyway, the new senior editor is Dawn Davis, or the whatever her CEO. I don't know what she is. What is she? There's a guy just going at a tree. Always blowing a whatchamacallit. Leaf blower. I was gonna say a wind blower. Dawn Davis is the senior editor, I guess. Yeah. So, and the executive editor is an Indian woman. I was going to say girl because she looks to be my age. Yeah. So this is, good for them. Good for them for trying. But it's a little too late because the YouTube channel went dark. The videos are still up there, but people just stopped watching. I know I stopped watching and I unsubscribed and I stopped caring, and then this happened, and then you start paying attention again. And it seemed tone deaf. They already have like 2 videos up with them explaining, like, hey, we're back, but they didn't mention, why they were gone. It was all like a lot of cursory stuff. It was all, my leg is falling asleep the way I'm sitting. It was all stuff like, along the lines of, there's been a lot of change in America. People of color and queer people, they need representation. And that's how it's been, versus, a long conversation where they need to sit down and go, hey, and even though it's a cooking channel, even though it's a cooking YouTube channel, a cooking magazine, they're not sitting down to go, hey, it was real effed up what happened. And this is what happened. We're sorry this happened, and here's how we're going to make it better. Instead of, oh, look at this. We got brown people. We're brown now. That's a better title than what I wrote down earlier. What's the other title? Coming from the Back of You. I like We're Brown Now. I'm going to go with that. I'll write that down. We're... See, this is what happens when you're able to be out here and be all loosey-goosey. Let's keep going. This is about half an hour long. Half an hour too long. So I'm obviously I'm done. I'm not gonna. I don't care. There's other cooking things, and I just like them for the personalities and the cooking. But I wish everybody there the best. It's Condé Nast I have a problem with. Oh, here she comes. Oh, this lady's coming back. She better not come over near this car. Lady, I'm recording the podcast. Yeah, you better walk away. I want to know. I see this lady out here periodically. She's on the phone. She says she can't hear me. But she's wearing leggings right now. So did she change into those and she's getting her walk in? Or did she wear those to work? Now, we are in an office building. And I tend to wear... and I know I'm in television, but I tend to wear clothes. What I'm saying is, a lot of the guys that I work with wear shorts to work. I think that's inappropriate in an office building. I do. Mad Men mentality. Everybody needs to wear a 3-piece suit. Like the report of the week. I was just watching one of his videos. Everybody needs to wear one of those ill-fitting 3-piece suits. I love that guy. He's a great guy. Go check out Report of the Week if you want to see somebody eat fast food and review it. And not scream. It's very important to me. This comes from The Atlantic, written by Caitlin Tiffany, called Twitter Goofed It. Now, this is very important that we get a handle on this. And you've probably heard this story already. And we need to understand what's going on here. The New York Post... let's start backwards. 2016... we got a very bad president, and journalism has already been on the bubble, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, but in recent years it's just been a more of a mixed bag, and in that, some of it's dubbed fake or unreliable, and unreliable news is getting out there, and it's a shame. I just saw her go into the woods. Maybe she took a piss. I just saw her go into the woods and then come out, and it's been like 2 minutes. That is so strange. I don't know what she did. As long as she doesn't bother me, she's probably on the phone like, oh, this guy's recording a podcast. I wonder if it's a comedy, entertainment, business news podcast. Anyway, but journalism journalism's changed, and I wouldn't say for the better. I mean, there's a lot more access and there's a lot of better storytelling, but it's been a lot of it's editorialized, and you just don't know if it's true or not, and people don't seem to care, unless it's said it's untrue. Then it happens. So the New York Post published a very just salacious story that included screenshots of emails allegedly copied from a hard drive that could possibly have belonged to Hunter Biden. Now, the New York Post, obviously already not a reputable publication. There were holes in the reporting. The Post never really confirmed anything that happened, but it doesn't matter because the president's goons ran with it. Giuliani, Donald Trump Jr., Kayleigh McEnany, they all ran with it. And Twitter decided to just, whenever that tweet or the link was posted, to just ban or suspend the Twitter profiles that were doing it. Twitter temporarily blocked a link to a government website run by the Republicans of the House Judiciary Committee where the story had been reposted. Then the ban was lifted. And Twitter spokesperson said, and they said the decision was made in error. But Donald Trump Jr. tweeted that the ban constituted, quote, clear election interference. This has nothing to do with the... Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Do I just not have to move? The camera fell. And I want you to know how much trouble I'm having right now. What if I just went home and re-recorded this podcast? All right. I mean, this is fine. Whatever. Who cares? Nobody watches the show anyway. A lot of listens, though. Thank you for listening. He said he looked at the camera. So, one of the big problems with the quick banning and then unbanning of the link is that someone just said yo. One of the things, I assume it's the construction people over there, or the leaf people. One of the things is that there have been, again, from one side, from one type of person, from one person particularly in charge of the United States, sadly, saying that there is conservative bias, anti-conservative bias over there on social platforms, mainly Twitter, which is untrue. But with them, moving so quick, I mean, this is just such a complicated story. Whenever Twitter, blocks these types of things that are obviously untrue, then the Republicans say it's, and this is not a political show, but where the Republicans say that they're being fought against. But then when they don't do anything, then it's like a catch-22, and I'm sure smarter people can explain this. But Twitter is allowed to censor what it wants. They can block whatever URL they want, but Twitter's unclear of its rules, because sometimes they block some stuff, sometimes they don't, and it's funny because you think everybody's like, oh, Facebook's bad, but then things happen on other sites. All social media is bad. Maybe we should just undo social media. Twitter's made real strides, Caitlin writes, to become a safer and more useful website, but the company's choice to ban one link without a prompt, coherent explanation, cheapens that progress. Their rules have to be, if they're going to be strict, be strict. If you're going to force something, just force it. But you can't be wishy-washy on everything. I think that's what they're getting at. Okay, this final... What in the world? Oh, it's a CNBC link. Is this the final one? This can't be the last story. It is. Thank God. This has been going over a minute. 41 minutes to be exact. This comes from CNBC, written by Sarah Whitten. Disney says its primary focus... The reason why I freaked out was because I pressed the link and it opened up the CNBC app on my iPad. That never really happens. Disney says its primary focus for entertaining is streaming, announces a major reorg. Sarah Whitten over at CNBC. The pandemic has really changed the way media is made and consumed, for better or for worse. It's really pushed, movie theaters and companies and studios, music, like to really think like, hey, do we need to have a concert? Do musicians really need to tour? Which is yes, because that's how they make their money. That and apparel. Do theaters need to exist? Yes. And by that, a bug just flew by my eye. Yes, theaters need to exist. However, with Tenet not performing very well, and No Time to Die, and Wonder Woman 1984, Black Widow, just a whole bunch of tentpole movies being pushed back into next year or just being released on streaming services, companies are really coming to a reckoning with, should we just release movies on streaming services, especially the streaming services that we have. I just saw a bird. No big deal. So Universal, they want to do. They teamed up with AMC after a week of strife going back and forth, with the ability to release movies, I think 6 weeks after they premiere in theaters, onto their streaming platforms. and Trolls World Tour immediately, like as soon as it left theaters, it hit Peacock and Hulu, and Amazon, I believe. More recently, speaking of Amazon, God, what's it called? Coming to America 2 was sold by Universal to, or Paramount. Was it Paramount or Universal? One of those. I think it might have been Paramount. To Amazon Studios, and it's going to premiere on there. Borat, the second Borat movie, is going to Amazon, but I assume that they own that already. So now Disney, so Netflix has been beating this drum for years. But there are dissenters like Christopher Nolan, who obviously wanted Tenet in theaters and not on a streaming service, or those who go to the Cannes Film Festival. My package arrived at Fetch, so I will schedule for them to deliver it tonight. Just want you to know what my emails I get. But Cannes Film Festival, the organizers there in France, they say that your movie, in order for it to be included in their festival, which is one of the biggest festivals which is one of the best festivals in the world too, including for film and television, it needs to be in theaters for 90 days. It needs to have a release plan, and that's why, even though they didn't want to, Netflix went and bought a couple of theaters so that they could, release these things, movies like The Irishman or Roma, and just be able, or Okja, which was the real big problem, so that they'd be able to have. You never remember Okja, did you? So they'd be able to have, they'd be able to say, hey, we released a movie, for 6 weeks. So here it is. It's in theaters and then in 6 weeks you can watch it on Netflix. So when Netflix does that, but then you have Disney, trying to get both sides of the equation. Did that woman go for one lap around the property, take a piss in the woods, and then walk back into the building? Okay. Gross. But then, Disney has been pretty staunch on its stance. Even though Disney does release movies, they have no problem releasing movies digitally. It has been, pretty staunch going, hey, they have 40% of the film box office. So, them, it doesn't make sense for them to release movies only on digital, right? Well, this pandemic is going to last for a long time, and especially in America. But so now, under Bob Chapek, who is still getting some help from Bob Iger, they are reorganizing from being this theatrically and theme park focused company to a more streaming based company, which is great for, I don't even want to say it's great, it's good for consumers, great for investors, but not so good for the rest of everything else. Yeah, for consumers, you get the movie on Disney Plus. You get to see Soul on Christmas. You get to see, The Right Stuff, which I assume was already coming to Disney Plus. But whatever. You get to see these movies right then and there. However, in the future, when you want to see, an original Disney film, and not a Disney Channel original movie, but an original Disney film in theaters, like the one with, Tomorrowland. When you see something that's not going to be a franchise, Disney's not going to make that for theaters. They're only going to make the Black Widows. They're only going to make the Iron Mans and the other things that they are meant to be monetized like that. So it's not good. You don't want Netflix telling you that rom-coms, they're meant for streaming, and in these big bombastic films, you can see it in theaters. You don't want that. In order to further accelerate its direct-to-consumer strategy, the company will be centralizing its media businesses into a single organization that will be responsible for content distribution, ad sales, and Disney Plus. This was announced on Monday. Shares of the company jumped 5%. Sorry, I just got a Washington Post notification. The move by Disney comes as the global coronavirus pandemic has crippled the theatrical business, blah, blah, blah. As of August, holy crap, Disney has 100 million paid subscribers across its streaming offerings, more than half of whom are subscribers to Disney Plus. So let's say comfortably 60,000 people, 60 million people. Wow. And I'm one of them, and I've just watched The Simpsons. Truly, I have not, except for Earth to Ned and Muppets Now. But other than that, I have not watched anything else. That and The Simpsons. Chapek said the reorganization could result in some reduction of staff, but not likely at the same scale as was seen at the company's Parks division last month. Disney laid off 28,000 people, 28,000 workers, because the Disneyland parks were not going to be reopening soon. And I think they tried to open them for a little bit, but it just wasn't working out. I mean, it said they have all the money in the world, but they choose to lay people off. Furlough people, I guess is what they're calling it, but they're laying people off because they don't want to pay them. You have all the money in the world, Disney. Oh my gosh. I mean, it sucks because, they obviously are good at making things and making people happy. But when it comes to things like this, they get a pass because because Wolverine can kiss Spider-Man now, Disney is becoming more reliant on Disney Plus as movie theaters have been unable to recover after being shuttered in March due to the outbreak. Ticket sales have been particularly lackluster at domestic cinemas since the industry attempted a large-scale reopening in late August. Alan Horn and Alan Bergman will remain in charge of the company's studios. Peter Rice will continue to head the company's general entertainment group, and James Pietro will stay as head of the company's sports content. Sounds like a lot of white dudes are in charge. I'm not joking. Like that sounds like a lot of white dudes are in charge, which is unfortunate. So they're doing some consolidating and some. I don't know, man. It's tough. I understand we're in a pandemic but they don't have a lot of revenue coming in. But Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, and viewers watching shows on ABC, and people just straight up buying your crap. I mean, you have the money, you can pay these people, you can pay for things, and it'll bring your money in over 10 times over. Where obviously 100 times over is what you usually do, but 10 times over is better than nothing. I don't know, Disney's a weird entity for me. It's a love-hate relationship. Hey, listen, this has been way too long. If you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com. We're going to see some interviews with your favorite comedians. If you want to see a video version of the show and see this camera just fall over the place all the time, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where we also post. Oh my God. Okay, whatever. The phone just stopped. I'm going to keep going, and I freaking hopefully, whatever. Hopefully it just shimmy Christmas. YouTube.com Sleepless Comedy. See News Time premiere show where I sit down and do a Daily Show type show, but with comedy. With a comedy, entertainment, business news in mind. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sleepless Comedy. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chad Black White. Like us on Facebook. Listen, subscribe, rate, review this podcast. The Constitutionals Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. This is the end. Goodbye of the show. Goodbye.